Hey guys, this is Red and Blue, the channel on YouTube for all things PSG in English. Please subscribe. Today, I thought since Luis Campos doesn't seem to be very active, at least in the media, I thought I'd help him out. I'm a nice guy like that. So I've been looking and scouting through all of the English Premier League. Thinking of what talent would be interesting for PSG to look at. The idea being, if you follow the Luis Campos and Luis Enrique way of looking at players and what they typically want from their recruits, are there any interesting opportunities and interesting talent in the Premier League that we should be looking at? And yeah, I've got 5 players to talk about, a couple that I've mentioned previously, and then a few new ones. So yeah, let's just dive in. In terms of what I'm looking at, typically I'm trying to apply the same filters that the Luises are, which is players who are relatively young and not necessarily completely fully formed, that show very good technique, very good passing, a high degree of intelligence and understanding of the game. And if possible, who are versatile and can play in a few different positions. The idea being that I think right now our starting 11 is at very high level already, and so I'm not really looking for players who are going to come in and be part of that starting 11, but more player who can help fill some gaps in terms of squad density and squad depth, but also can cover in a few different positions, can challenge in a few different plays, and might open new tactical opportunities for the team to continue to evolve and build on the great work that we've had last season. So yeah, I'll just jump into it. The first one I've mentioned before, it's Jan Paul van Hecke, who's a Dutch defender from Brighton. He's 25 years old. He's been in Brighton for a few years now. I think since 2020, if I'm not wrong. No, sorry, he joined. He joined in June 2021, but he had a season in loan in Blackburn. So he's been in the English leagues for about 4 years, progressively rising from a very young talent to someone who last season was the best player of the season for Brighton. He's a centre back, right-footed, relatively tall at 1 meter 90 or so. He's Dutch, so he's relatively physical as well. And I think what really drew me to him is that it feels like he's got a little bit of a similar profile to Marquinhos, in the sense that he's very comfortable with the ball. He's used to a possession-based system. He's strong with aerial, which is something that we're looking at in central defense. But he really has the composure and the skills to play the ball out from the back. And be that first point of bringing the ball out of defense and into the midfield, combining with Donnarumma and Pacho on one side and with Hakimi and on the other, and pushing the ball ahead of himself. He's currently valued at 32 million euros, so it's well within our means. And I think at 25 he might be a little bit older than what we typically look at, but I think he's exactly this kind of player who first, not all players develop at the same pace and really get onto the world stage at an early age. And I think he's this one who's been able to maintain regular progression. And I think he could be at a similar place than where Pacho was last season, of playing for maybe a second tier team, but really being able and being ready to go into the biggest team and shine in the Champions League and the very, very big games. I think this season in particular, he had a very, very good game against Man City, which was well noted. And so that's also what makes me believe in him a little bit, because I think for a defender, the test that you pass when you have to handle Haaland in particular, that's something that's really a sink or swim kind of moment. And by all accounts, he passed his. So I think it'd be interesting. I think we also have, obviously, for this position, we're in the context of transitioning to the after Marquinhos of it all. Marquinhos is not getting any younger. He's been with PSG forever. Basically, he's our captain and our most capped player. There's no rush in pushing him out, but we do want to prepare transitioning into younger player, and we do want to continue strengthening our team. And I think Marquinhos, as much as I love him personally, and I think he's a fantastic player and a really great person, I definitely think there's opportunities to improve at that position. And we've been looking at Zabarni as this kind of number one target for this position. We'll see if Luis Campos and Luis Enrique and now Nasser apparently is getting involved in that. So we'll see if they can get it done. But if they can't, it feels that Van Hecke could be a good plan B and someone where we can bring him on board right now. He could rotate with Marquinhos for a year and kind of share minutes and progressively get his footing within the PSG squad, get used to the Luis Enrique of it all, get more experienced into Champions League football, into really the biggest game in world football, and get ready for in 1 year or 2 years max, take over Marquinhos and really become our skipper in this right side of the central defense. So I think interesting player. I had mentioned him in my ideal mercato as well, so he's someone I've had my eyes on. And I think Brighton is also a team that typically works quite well in detecting potential in players. So I put some trust in that. And yeah, like I said, Zabarni is definitely on top of our list. But if we're looking at someone else, I think he's someone that we should be looking at. Cool. Next one. This one, I've seen comments mentioning him, and I think he's been talked about a lot within the circles of PSG fan. Another Brighton player, so sorry for that. Is Carlos Baleba. So Carlos Baleba is a midfielder. And I think someone who could also really add a lot to our team. Is 21-year-old. He's from Cameroon initially. He actually played with Lille a couple of years ago before moving to Brighton, so he's got some Ligue 1 experience. And really, last season in the Premier League he's coming of age party, and he's really impressed throughout his season. He's someone who's obviously, like I said, one of my criteria is players who are very skilled technically. So I think in terms of passing and dribbling, Baleba has really proven that he can do good work. But he's also a player that's very physical, and I think that's something that, especially after the game against Chelsea, I think that's a string to our bow that we might want to look at adding. I think when you look at a Moses Caicedo in Chelsea, for example, who's obviously a fantastic midfielder, but also someone who does bring in that degree of physicality. We see how that can bother us sometime, and so I do think it could be an interesting one. Typically, Joao Neves for us has been, I guess, that quote unquote physical midfielder, and I'll explain what I mean, because obviously Joao Neves isn't very tall or very big, but at the same time he does have a huge stamina, runs everywhere. He's not afraid to go shoulder to shoulder as well, despite his smaller size. But I think it'd be in some cases it'd be nice to have a little bit of an upgrade on this. Within our squad, I've got a lot of faith and a lot of hope in Warren Zaïre-Emery still, who I know hasn't had the best season yet, but I do think he's someone who can be additive for that kind of quality. But Carlos Baleba could also definitely help us there. And yeah, in general, I think he could add. He's been at Brighton for a couple of years, like I said, so there's no immediate transfer stories. He's valued right now at 40 million euro. So I think that's one of the things with the Premier League, sadly, is that a player, as soon as he has a good 6 months, is going to be worth 50 million euros. So we're not looking at a cheap one on this. But yeah, if he confirms and he keeps improving on what he's done, I think he could be a very, very interesting player for us. Cool. Next one. This one is a bit of a wild card, and I haven't really heard him mentioned anywhere. His name is Bilal El Khannouss, and yeah, he's a young Moroccan player. He's Sorry, I'm looking at my notes at the same time. Yeah, he's a young Moroccan player, midfielder, typically more attacking than Baleba. Um, Very, very, very gifted in terms of technical ability and creativity, and I think he can be that more attacking midfielder who can go back and forth. Setting up play and providing creativity, but also like going back into midfield and strengthening that. So typically, the way I see it is like someone who could be like a little bit of a Fabian Ruiz substitute in a way, except probably like more flashy in terms of playing style. Um, and so yeah, like someone with excellent dribbling skills, vision. He can also play a little bit wider, typically more on the left than on the right, so not necessarily something that's super relevant for us. But yeah, an interesting one, and I think he's been talked about, like especially a couple of years ago. He was in Genk in Belgium, and he was really like one of the hot prospect of world football. And I think the past year he's been in Leicester actually. And he's done okay, but he hasn't like really confirmed everything just yet. He's had like a very, very solid Premier League season. He's played in 32 games. He's got more than 2,000 minutes of game times. And yeah, he scored like 2 goals in the league plus one in the cup. And yeah, a few more than a few assists, I guess, like three, 5 assists. He's played over his career he's had some games in European competitions, but not that much. So maybe like a bit further away from blowing into the world stage, but very attractive because yeah, like I said, his technicality and his dribbling and vision is very, very impressive at this age. And I think obviously like Moroccan as well, we've got Hakimi who can help shape him and welcoming into PSG and make sure he fits the mold there. Um, so yeah, it could be an interesting one. The other caveat that I've got for him is that we've seen recently PSG potentially looking at Rodrigo Mora, and the latest news that we've had, which I'm not entirely convinced is not a mercato tactic leak, is that PSG doesn't necessarily want to bring young player in this part of the squad because they want to make sure that a player like that our younger players in the squad really have that space to develop. And so in that context, do we want to bring someone here who could be taking minutes away from other players, or like are we just open to bringing in players? So question mark, but yeah, I think he's an interesting talent to look at, to be sure. Cool. And then the last one I've got on my list, who have also, oh no, sorry, not the last one, the one before last. Sorry, I've got one after this. Another interesting one, Facundo Buonanotte, who's an Argentinian attacking midfielder slash winger. And he fits something that we know we've been looking at, which is a player who can play on the right flank of the attack with a strong left foot. And I think if we place ourselves in the context of Kang-in Lee moving out of PSG, he could exactly be the kind of player that we'd be looking at to take that spot. He's currently in Leicester as well, worth 20 or so million euros, so he's not massively expensive. He's an Argentinian player and an international. He's had a couple of caps with the Argentinian team, and he's someone who's been known for a few years to really like have a lot of potential, I guess, and be one of those Argentinian players who could be one of the big talent of his generation. Um, So he's actually like he's owned by Brighton. He was last season on loan in Leicester, and so that's why he's played quite a lot in the Premier League. So he does have that level of experience. He's a pretty versatile player. Like I said, can play in a few different positions, and can go from being a classic winger, and he can also play into midfield, both as ball-winning midfielder, but also like deep-lying playmaker. So you can even imagine like him being able to go all the way down and substitute for a Vitinha, for example, which could be very interesting. Technically extraordinarily gifted, very good with controls and with creativity. So yeah, I think he could be someone that would fit. Um, is not entirely proven yet, and I think that's be the downside. And I think that's true for all of those players, that we're looking for players who don't come in at the level of the first team, but can cover different positions and can potentially develop into players that can challenge for the first team. And so, they're not there just to sit on the bench and play 10 games a season when one of our starting 11 is injured or suspended. Um, and at the same time, like they really have what it takes to be pushing them and increasing the overall level of the squad. I think for Buonanotte, we're really in that context, and yeah, I think he's one to keep an eye on, and one that we should be interested in. Cool. And now, finally, the last one this time, I'm sure. Also, a player that I had mentioned before in my ideal mercato, it's Amad Diallo of Man United, who I think would be like a very, very interesting recruit from us. Also, in that context of looking for a right winger who's got a left foot. Is someone who we've known for a few years now. He's actually 23 years old already as of a couple of weeks ago. So he's been on the stage for a few years, really shown in Atalanta initially, before getting transferred to Man United in early 2021. So he's been in England for a few years now. He did one season in loan in Rangers, and then another one in Sunderland. And I think progressively he's really like started living up to the potential that kind of everyone knew he had. And I think he's at that level now where, for us, who are looking at bringing in something a little bit different from for the right flank of attack, I think if you compare to what Desiree Doué can bring, for example, it's something very, very different. He's got a lot of pace, a lot of dribbling, but really like direct running at defenders. He's got like really like impressive flashes of brilliance, and I think he's got a lot of versatility as well, which is he's been someone who's played a couple of times in at right fullback, so potentially someone who could cover for Hakimi as well, which could be interesting because I think finding a sub for Hakimi is just next to impossible. So having this sort of profile on our team could be interesting. And I think, in the context of what we've seen in the media recently, of PSG looking at maybe more experienced player, I think he really fits that mold of, like 4 years in Manchester United. You've basically like been through fire, and you've seen a lot of things. And so even if he's still young, he's relatively experienced already for his age. And so we could bring him in. I think the question mark with him is the consistency. I think he's very well known to be capable of, like I said, moment of pure brilliance, but he's not always playing at the same level. And I think the question mark will be, if he comes in as a sub, will he be able to consistently challenge for playing time, or is he going to get discouraged? Is he going to lack rhythm and not be able to perform at his best in this context? So I think that's a question for Luis Campos and Luis Enrique to look at. But I think in terms of pace, in terms of directness, and if we're looking at someone who can come in, the last 20, 25 minutes of a game, which is tied, where we're not necessarily like winning yet, where the opposition is playing like strong defense and a low defense. Yeah, he could be that kind of player who can stick a bunch of dynamite in a defense and just in 25 minutes like just make it explode completely. and can also cover in a few different positions. So definitely someone interesting. I think the question mark as well for Ahmed Diallo is that is relatively expensive. He's valued at 45 million euro. But obviously, like Manchester United, being Manchester United, they might ask more money of us. We've got relatively good relationship with them, so that could help. And I think they're in the middle of a big rebuild of their squad. And they've bought in Mbomo, who's like really playing at his position. So that begs the question of whether he's going to be used or not in this new Manchester United. And so that might be an opportunity for us. Anywho, yes, this is what I had for you guys. I think that's my scouting report of the EPL and what players might be interesting for Luis Campos to take a look at. We're all hoping for some transfer activities coming in from PSG in the coming days or week. I think personally, like. I consume a huge amount of PSG content and information. One of the things I've heard recently is that while our squad is still on holiday and our staff is still on holiday, which is essentially going to take us to the end of the month / the beginning of August, it doesn't make that much sense for us to be very active and to sign players. Because let's face it, if we sign someone tomorrow, either they're going to be coming in Paris to train with our U19 and the players that we want to sell. There's no friendly games organized. So they're actually better off, like right now, being in their existing team and doing the summer preparation with them, training with them, playing in some friendly games with them. And then, beginning August, when our squad comes back and everyone comes back from holiday, we can have new players at that point to be like better, more sharp physically, and really ready to kickstart the season. So as much as I hate to admit it, it feels like we might be in for a week and a half still of low transfer activity on the PSG side. Doesn't mean that we're not working. Doesn't mean that Luis Campos is twiddling his thumb on a beach in Ibiza somewhere. I'm sure those guys are hard at work in trying to find the right profile. And yeah, hopefully, there's definitely opportunities to improve our squad. Like I said, I think our starting 11 is at a really, really high level already. So I'd be very surprised if we bring in someone who can take a spot in that starting 11. But I think in terms of squad density, in terms of up and coming talents, who can add to the team, there's definitely opportunities there. And obviously, like that's where Luis Campos lives as well. So I've got lots of trust in him. So yeah, that's what I thought. Let me know what you guys think in the comments on those 5 names. Is there one that's like more attractive to you than the other? Like I said, I know Baleba has been talked a lot by PSG fan as someone who'd be interesting to look at. Ahmed Diallo is fairly well known, but I think for me, like all of the 5 could have some interesting elements to bring to our team. So let me know what you think and which one you'd want to see in PSG. Please leave a like on the video. Massively help to get more visibility for the channel, and do subscribe as well. We're doing really well, past 200 subscribers and flying every day. So thank you so much for those who are subscribed, and for those who aren't, the button is right down there. You can see it. Click on it once and you're done. It doesn't cost anything. You can even hit the bell after that to get notified when I drop a new video, which is basically every day. And yeah, just like watch this space for more. And don't forget, across the EPL, but more in France than anywhere else, ici c'est Paris!